I had one question that someone sent in at the last minute, and that was Noreen, and she can't be here today, but she said she would be watching. So she wanted to know the new phone. One of the new phones is the iPhone 11 that was announced, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But she wanted to know, does it make sense to upgrade from an X to an iPhone 11? The X phone came out 2 years ago. And it sort of depends on what you want. That's one of the things that I'm considering doing. What you would get is you'd get a processor that is much, much faster because it's 2 years newer. You get dual cameras, and they're better cameras than I think that are on the 10, which also has dual cameras. What you lose is you lose the OLED screen, and you get an LED screen, which a lot of people are very happy with.
What's the difference?
And the difference in the screens, on the OLED screen, it's the blacks are true black. On the LED screen, or the older screen of all the older phones, and they say that the blacks are not completely true black. But when you read the reports on it, everybody was very disappointed last year with the RX phones when they first announced them, but then after they reviewed them and looked at the screens, they said, hey, these are perfectly great. So it depends on what you want to do. Yes?
Is the LED screen also on the Pros?
Yes,
Yeah.
it is. There are no OLED screens on iPads yet.
I'm talking about iPhones. So.
Oh, on the Pros, the OLED screens are on those. Yes. So that was her question, and I think the big thing for, I mean, in general, the announcement. How many people watched the announcement yesterday? Oh, quite a few. How many people watched it more than once? Okay. I don't know. I've read a lot of stuff about Apple. I've seen a lot of presentations, and except for the camera, this was underwhelming.
Agreed, yeah.
A general agreement on that. Okay. And that's what I'm reading.
What was underwhelming?
All the announcements were underwhelming, other than the new cameras. That's the general thing that. And other people agreed in the
They
audience.
said that it wasn't the G5 capability.
That's what everybody was wanting, and we knew that we weren't going to get that. And they're just, I mean, like on the watch, we'll go over this. On the watch, it was heavily rumored that there was going to be a sleep app built into the watch. It never came. It never came. The watch. I've got some notes. Let me just bring up my notes on the announcement.
So therefore, we should all sell our Apple stock?
No, not at all.
No.
I think next year they'll have a bumper year with the next phones. Yes, Lupe.
I think the big announcement was the services, correct?
Yeah, the big announcements. But there were three things that stood out with the announcements. The TV Plus service for $4.99 a month was a lot lower than people expected. The arcade announcement at $4.99 a month for over 100 different games was a lot less than people expected. And I know everybody in here, I know you're all gamers, so I'm going to spend the rest of the session going over the arcade. And the other thing that was a big surprise is they actually lowered the price of the iPhone 11 by $50. Lower than the RX last year, and this is the upgrade to the RX. So those were the things that were very favorably viewed. Yes?
And if you buy a new phone or an iPad, you get 1 year free.
Yeah.
Supposedly any app.
Well, I heard that, but I did not. I ordered my watch, and it did not pop up that I was gonna get a year free, and so I'm gonna call Apple.
A year free of what?
The TV Plus. So what they said on the keynote is if you get an iPad, an iPhone, or a computer, that it would be free for a year. They did not say the watch. I watched one of the 20 videos I've watched since the keynote on YouTube did mention that you would get it with the watch, but I went back to the website and couldn't find anything, so I'm going to call Apple. Yes.
Didn't they also say that was good if you buy a new Apple TV?
Yeah, Apple TV too.
And
Yeah.
does it matter where you buy it from?
I don't think so. I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about that. I'd check with Apple. Okay, so let me just give you a rundown here. We already mentioned the arcades, $4.99 a month. That's gonna come on 9/19. And they're also offering a 1-month free trial. The Apple TV is gonna come out on 11/1, and they're gonna be new releases with with their proprietary content that they're developing monthly going on in the future. And there'll be a lot of movies and things I'm sure that are available as well. $4.99 a month for a family plan. That'll include your family plan. We already mentioned they'll be free if you buy certain products. They also announced, the other favorable thing that they announced, I did forget, is the new iPad, entry-level iPad. And it's now not a 9.7, it's 10.2 inches. It has a updated processor, and it starts at, I think, $340.
$399.
$399, yeah.
Right.
And if you get it, and if you add some memory to it, I looked, if you add some memory, you can jack it up to $600, but it's really cheap and really a great upgrade if you don't want to go to the pro level. And it will take the keyboard accessory, and so it looked to be pretty good. Yes.
I think the other significant announcement was that they keep the 3 watch and sell it for
Yeah,
under $200.
Yeah, I'm gonna go over that.
Oh, yeah,
You're getting
okay.
ahead of me. You're always jumping ahead of me, Bob.
Oh, sorry.
Or use the
Okay.
free one, or you get it.
No, I'm going down the list here. The Apple Watch 5, which is what it's called, it'll have some nice features, but it was sort of, to me, it was underwhelming, although I did sell my old one immediately, and I've got the new one on order. It's going to have an always-on display, and they went over on the video how they're going to do that, but basically it's going to be a dimmer display, but you'll be able to see the display without tilting your watch to see it. And it's going to have the same battery life. So one of the big questions is, if you turn off that feature, is it going to increase the battery life? And I've
What
again
did they
seen
project the battery life to be?
18 hours. So same as last year. So we won't know an answer to that. They didn't comment on that, and we won't know an answer to that until the watch comes out in a week or two, and people start tearing it apart and doing all these measurements and everything. The other thing is, they mentioned that there's a new processor, and it's, I just don't know what it's doing for the watch, other than maybe it's smaller and providing for more battery space. But they made a big deal about it's twice as speedy as the Watch 3, which they are keeping in the lineup. I went back and looked at the announcement last year, and they said the same thing about the 4, was twice as fast as the 3. So that indicates to me that this thing is not faster.
So wait a minute, they said it was twice as fast as the 3.
And last year, they said the 4 was twice as fast as the 3.
That's very good.
So, yes, good observation that it's not going to be any faster than a 4. Okay? Now, it might do some other things like I say, to help out the battery life and so on. They did some things on the screen to help that situation, so it's that always on display will work. But we'll see on what that processor does. They announced 3 new health studies that you can sign up for. I'm not going to go into those. It's going to have a compass, which is something new, and that'll only be available on the 5. So you'll be able to pull up the compass. It'll show you what direction you're headed, northeast, southwest. It will rotate just like a compass. It'll also show your latitude and longitude, and it'll show your altitude. And that was pretty neat for some people. Also, they announced international 911 calling on this phone, and that might be available on previous generations. I forget what it did say, but on this phone, if you're overseas, you're in Europe, and you hit the emergency call, it's going to go to the local emergency authorities, and that's something new, and it's something that a lot of international travel folks wanted. There are 2 new finishes. The titanium and the platinum is back. The titanium comes in 2 colors. It's a brushed silver and a brushed black, not green, black. The titanium is pretty expensive. I priced one out, and it's about $300 or $400 more than getting the aluminum. And since I get a new watch every year, I'm sticking with the aluminum. I've been very happy with them. I've had them for a couple of years now.
How about the ceramic cost?
The ceramic is back up to $1,300 again at the starting level. Yeah, and it only comes in white. Beautiful piece, but if I were buying one and never going to buy one again, I'd probably do that, but I like to upgrade every year. Back on the processor, they did go, or on the memory, they did increase the memory from 16 gigabytes to 32.
On the watch?
On the watch.
Okay.
Yes, on the watch. And that's a big improvement. And that was sort of hidden in the background. Okay, so that's about it on the watch. There's no, I mean, I really thought they'd announced some improved health monitoring items, maybe the sleep tracking, and none of that was announced.
Didn't they say you can take a call on the watch?
But yeah, you could do that last year.
Oh,
Yes. If you have the watch and you a 4 or a 5, you can take calls.
No.
You can
You
take.
could always take
You could
calls.
always take calls. But on the 4 and the 5, if you have a cellular-enabled watch, I can leave my phone at home and answer calls right on my watch here. Okay? But you have to have the cellular plan to do that, the cellular watch to do that. If you got a GPS watch, you have to be with your phone.
And that's what, $100 more or something?
It's about $100 more, and plus you got to pay $10 a month to your provider, and I think they charge a $30 activation fee to just to boost the earnings. And if I didn't own a bunch of AT&T, I would complain about it. Okay. I'd like to, before I get into the camera, I would like to talk a minute about what they didn't announce that we thought they might announce. There was a lot of rumors in the last week or so that they were going to have a tile equivalent. You know, the tiles that you put on your keychain or whatever so you don't lose things. They were rumored to announce one. They actually have a chip that they did not talk about. It's in the phone, and the reason that I don't think they talked about it is that they're not ready to release that item. But apparently, I just read something this morning that this chip is thought to be something to do with that tile that hopefully they'll announce at some point in
What
time.
is it supposed to do?
Well, if you have one of the tile, are you familiar with the tiles now? Okay. If you buy these tiles, you can hook it on your keychain. If you lose your keys, you can just go to your phone, hit a button, and it'll start beeping where it is in your house.
Yeah,
Okay.
Oh, that's good.
I have one that's here.
Do you?
Yeah. So it's like a little, very good if you,
Yeah, I have one that's not a tile. I didn't like the tiles. Mine is,
So it's like a locator.
yeah, this is mine right here. And it works very well. I mean, it's like a locator, yeah. This one is it's called LX Key Ringer. And you get a couple of them at a time, and I just liked it. I liked it better than the tile. And Amazon, if you get on Amazon and put in tile, you'll get all kinds of variants.
What kind of range do you get on that?
Pretty good, from here to the restroom maybe, at least. Okay, then, so they did not announce the tile, but I did read something about there is a small new chip in the phone that's not being used for much that they think is associated with that in the future. They did not announce a new Apple TV. They did not announce a new 16-inch laptop, but that might come next month. Have you read anything about that coming next month?
Well, you know, they thought it was going to definitely come yesterday.
Yeah, they thought it was, but it didn't. Now, I heard two things on what will be released next. I heard, well, there'll be an iPad Pro in the spring. Then I read one article today that said there'll be a presentation next month, and they'll announce the 16-inch, and they'll announce the iPad, new iPad Pros. So who knows? It's all speculation at this point. They did not announce a new iPad Pro. They just announced the new basic one. They did not announce a new HomePod, which was rumored that they might announce that. And they did not announce a third generation AirPods.
Wasn't there also rumors for a pencil for the new phones?
There was a rumor of that too, and that was not announced either.
But the new regular iPad can take the pencil.
Yes,
That's new.
yes, it can. I don't know, they weren't specific on which pencil it will take, but
I would assume the new thing.
I would assume the new one too. Yeah. Okay, so this is from their website, and I'll just scroll through this. Apple's website, and so here's the iPad 11 Pro, iPhone Pro with the 3 cameras. We'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. Then here's the iPhone 11, the one that starts at $600, right?
$699, I think.
$699, yes. $50 lower than the preceding year. Here's the watch. And the pricing there is about the same, might be a few dollars less, but that's about it. And that's the new 10.2. They increased they pushed those bezels out, and that's what made it a 10.2, even though it's the same physical size as the 9.7. The screen is slightly bigger because they got rid of some of the margins. And you can see there, they got the pencil with it, and they have the keyboard option.
That pencil doesn't look like the new one though, because the new ones don't have that
It doesn't.
band on the top.
It doesn't look like the new one.
It does not?
Does not look like the new one to me.
So the original.
The original, you'd have to verify that, but I didn't read that it was a new pencil. And the picture doesn't,
I just assumed.
that picture is the old pencil, because I have one.
So the new pencil doesn't have that silver
You
band.
know, see no band on the top, it's flat on the edge.
Yeah, there's the band on the top.
Unless they took the long ones and take the...
I don't think they did. Okay, then, here's the Apple TV Plus and the arcade.
Series 5 and a new iPad. So let's go ahead and cover everything that happened at this event. Gotta say the marketing was on point. Very much enjoyed the way that they displayed the renders and their phones in general. Beautiful. So starting off with new iPads. Apple has went and replaced their entry-level iPad with a new 10.2-inch iPad. So the screen gets bigger, still has a home button, still has Touch ID, just a better value altogether. And Apple is heavily investing in their iPad line. They wanted to reiterate that with iPadOS. iPadOS really has been a transformative experience for old and new iPads alike. I really couldn't imagine using an iPad without it. So this new iPad, of course, replaces the 9.7-inch entry-level model, now 10.2 inches. It features an Apple A10 Fusion chip, so you get even more power for the same amount of money. Also notable is the addition of a smart connector, so you're now able to use accessories like the smart keyboard case. It's not a huge upgrade. I mean, it's a 10.2-inch entry-level iPad. There's really not much more you can get for a $329 entry price point. It's fantastic value, even cheaper for students, available on September 30th. So other than that, no new iPad Pros. Those will likely be reserved for the spring event of 2020. Moving on to the Apple Watch Series 5. Like the leak suggested, more of a Series 4.5, as it's not getting new silicon, keeping the Series 4 processor, but there are a few notable changes here. So hardware is slightly different with the addition of an LTPO display, which can vary the refresh rate from 1 to 60 Hertz, and because of that, a new always-on display is now possible. So this display will slightly dim and thus saving battery life, but because of that variable refresh rate display, Apple is able to keep the battery life exactly the same as the Series 4. It's actually quite clever the way they've adjusted several of the apps to work with this new low light, always on mode. Very cool. There's an additional few new sensors inside the hardware, so it's not exactly the same as the Series 4. You know, you're getting at least a little bit more for your money here. And I do like the way they've adjusted it. The software looks very, very cool. A lot of the apps also will work in low power mode.
Any questions on what was announced? Yes.
The content of Apple Plus, Apple TV Plus,
Yes.
is it going to include the movies that we now paid for on Apple TV?
You mean for free instead of...
Well, there's some for free and some you pay for.
Yeah. I'm not sure. They talk about other content that's going to come with it, and then they talk about their proprietary content that they're making movies, just like Netflix makes movies, and series like Game of Thrones and so on. And so I know there'll be that content that they're making, and it'll be proprietary to Apple. And I assume that there'll be some movie selections, but I don't think it'll be everything that's just coming out at all. They couldn't afford to do that. Yes, Bob?
With Apple, they always say something small that appears to be small, and later on we realize how big it was. The small thing was, they said, we have a much bigger audience than we ever had before. We invited a lot of new people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what determined what they announced and what they did not announce was the relevance of that bigger audience.
The relevance of what?
Of the subject to this bigger audience. And they will invite a completely different set of enlarged audience.
Because they have so many users.
For the
Yes.
computer-related items.
Yes.
And that explains some of what we expected, but did not get announced.
Yeah.
I think so.
Although the stock is up like $5 today, so the general public was very impressed, I think, with the results of that meeting.
The general public might have been, but the technical people were not.
Well, that's exactly the reason that the technically oriented computer thing will have a completely different audience.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, let's go over here.
Mitch, and maybe someone else understands that, but I still don't know the difference between, I have Apple TVs, and yet now they're saying Apple TV, and it looks like it's a different program, but it's confusing.
The Apple TV Plus will be a subscription, just like they have, you have your music, and then you have Apple Music, where you can pay $100 a year. It'll be sort of like that. It'll come up on your Apple TV, and if you want to subscribe to the Plus, you'll have to pay $5 a month, and then that will open up the window to more programming.
But do you have to have an Apple TV?
You will have to have an Apple TV unless you have one of the, some of the newer TVs are Apple TV enabled.
Oh, okay.
Is it like a, an app that goes on your Apple TV?
Yes.
Those apps?
Yes.
So it's like a separate app like the HBO Go and the Prime Video?
Yes, a weather station or Netflix, any of those. Yes. Carl?
I don't have an Apple TV, so where do I go to find out what the channels they cover? Like I've got a Roku, and how do I,
They don't cover any channels.
like Netflix and everything?
No, they have Netflix and they have everything that you can probably get on your Roku. I'm not familiar with Roku, I know it's a very popular device. But it's like that, you plug it into your TV and all these apps come up, but you don't get HBO unless you're, you know, HBO will come up, but you don't get it unless if you hit on it, it'll say, oh, do you want to subscribe and pay $10 a month? Same with Netflix. If you don't have a Netflix account, the icon that will be there, you hit on it and you log in if you've got an account, and if you don't, you have to subscribe.
Okay, does it have an Amazon Prime?
Yes,
At the time I got on Roku, they didn't have that, so I went with their Roku.
yeah, they have Amazon Prime. Yes, yes.
Are you saying that you have to have an Apple TV hardware to play Apple TV Plus?
Yes, unless you have one of the new TVs that Apple TV is built into. Some of the new TVs, some of the new, I've read where some of the new Samsungs and so on, when you plug them in, Apple TV is there. And I think if that's the case, you probably wouldn't need Apple TV.
My understanding is you don't need an Apple TV. It's an application, just like Netflix or anything else, because you run on any
You know, that
platform.
could be. I would assume you had to have the Apple TV, but that could be.
You might be able to run it on your iPad.
Yes.
Well, you can run it, it's on your phone already. Apple TV Plus is on your phone.
Yeah. So that might be right. It might just be an app, because I don't run mine that way. I run everything on Apple TV, but I do have TVs where at the bottom it's got Netflix and everything else, and if I wanted to run those apps from there rather than on Apple TV, I could.
So it
Yes.
sounds like it's an app, and you don't have to have Apple TV.
That's what it sounds like, yes. Yes.
Unless you have an old TV.
They talked about a trade-in and $599. What model are they talking about, and how much is this basic model that you might be trading up to? Because like on the iPhone, I have a 6 Plus, which is an older model, and then trying to figure out
Okay.
what would be worthwhile.
Okay, Apple is not going to give you much for that, and they're,
$80.
in general, $80, yeah. In general, their trade-ins are not very attractive. When I've always done a trade-in, I've done it through Gazelle. If you Google Gazelle and put in the information about your phone, the condition of your phone, what carrier, whether it's locked or unlocked, they will give you a price that, and they will tell you exactly how to ship it to them, which is free, and they'll credit you the money. Now, for example,
iPhone cost?
Huh?
What's the basic iPhone cost? In other words, how much if you went and paid cash for the basic iPhone at the Apple Store?
The smaller one starts at
$6.99.
$6.99. That's for the
What
11.
smaller one mean?
The 11. Not smaller, but the lowest cost.
Smaller.
The lowest cost of the new ones announced is $6.99. But they also are going to have last year's phones there. They're going to have the XR there, and it'll be cheaper, $5.99, $4.99.
The 8 as well.
And they're going to have the 8 as well.
How about the plus? I think so.
Yeah, the plus will be there.
8 plus.
No. Let's look. Let's look, hold on.
I think $3.99 is the lowest number for phones that they mentioned.
With the trade-in,
With the trade-in, and the $4.99 for,
$6.99.
no,
Without
that would be the 11, but
Yeah.
older version.
Oh,
I think $3.99.
okay, I have the answer to your question, Mitch.
Yeah,
In
go ahead.
in addition to Apple TV Plus, Apple TV Plus will presumably be available on some competitors' devices. Apple TV app is available on smart TVs from Samsung, and it's supposed to become available this year on Roku, Amazon's Fire TV devices, and smart TVs from Sony, LG, and Vizio. Subscribers will also be able to watch Apple TV Plus on the web at tv.apple.com.
Good.
So you would be able to watch it from any device that gets a browser.
Great, thanks, Marilyn. So here are the selections at the top. You have the iPhone 8, not the 8 Plus, the 8. Well, and the 8 and the 8 Plus would be the larger one. And let's just see what it says that those are going to be. Okay, they're going to start at, looks,
$4.49.
yeah, $449
Now go back
for the
up.
Plus.
Oh, you see the plus, because here it says 329.
That's for the small one.
But it's saying no.
So the 329 is, let me just look here.
But the
Yes?
plus it's saying no.
What was that?
There's the plus,
Oh, these are if you're going to trade in.
but it says no.
No what?
One that says, do you have an iPhone to trade in? And it says yes. It's 1370 or 329. Then it says no.
Yeah, if it's no, this is what it's going to be. No. So you don't have anything to trade in, it's going to be $449. And for the Plus, it's going to be $549. And there are the monthly charges as well. Now, let's go back up to phones and go to the last year's phone. No. And it will be $599, so $100 lower than the new one. Okay? Then,
You know, it all depends upon really why you want and what you're gonna do with your iPhone. Now, some of us, it doesn't, you know, we just have to have the newest and the greatest, like Mitch and me, usually. And,
that being said, why don't you have a machine here that works?
but actually, I'm trying to figure out, my grandkids, my children are very mean to my grandkids, and they hand them these, you know, they have like a 5 and a 4, and they feel like they're just deprived children with these old phones, and they want their grandfather to get a new one.
That'd be nice,
I would think so too.
I'm not sure if I might need to.
Do they realize that Grandpa is a
Yes.
little cash conscious?
I haven't told them that I didn't buy the red YouTube, because I never really other than the ones I made.
I use YouTube extensively, and YouTube is cost about, to get the premium version, it's not cheap, it's like $12 or $13 a month, but I do a lot with YouTube videos.
Mitch?
Yes.
This is off the subject, but you were talking about those location tiles. On the Apple Watch, I have a 4, so I don't know if it's on the earlier ones, but on the 4, if you go to the control center and you tap on what looks like the iPhone, it will signal you where the phone is if you have mislaid your phone.
Right.
Yes, it'll do that.
So it's sort of a locator for that one thing, but it's nice to know that.
Yeah, that works very well. I do that, I use that all the time. Of course, you have to have a watch to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's a kind of locator system that is built into this.
Yeah, it works very well. Here's what it sounds like. Oh, there's my phone right there.
Actually, if you want to trade in if you actually want to sell your phone, and you'll have to do a little bit more work, you can go to eBay and probably get more for it than you can get, certainly from Apple or even from Brazil. But it's a process that you have to watch the bidding and go through setting it up and so forth. Now, tons of people do it, and it's not that difficult, but it does take time.
The only thing I heard bad about that, and I asked Jeff Bohr does a lot with eBay, and he said he didn't experience this problem, but I've heard people that put stuff on there like a phone, they said it was in good condition and everything else, and they shipped it off, and then the person complained that something was wrong with it, and something really wasn't wrong with it according to the person, and then they cut the payment way down.
I've sold a lot of stuff. I have never experienced anything.
You never had anything?
But, every once in a while, you can have a problem. But, I shipped a Mac Pro years ago, and the post office dropped it.
Oh.
And I ended up, because I didn't want it back. I wanted the guy to negotiate a price that he wanted to pay for it. We finally agreed on half. And then I filed a claim with the post office and got most of the other half. But with eBay, because it's tied into PayPal, you really have very little risk.
Well, that's very true. Yeah.
Whenever
I buy anything on eBay, I always use PayPal.
I bought a brand new computer off of eBay once, and the guy, I paid for it and I never received it, but within a week, I had it all resolved through PayPal.
Yeah, I've had that happen one time. I'm buying an Apple iTunes card, never received it, and sent in a complaint to the vendor and to eBay, and they gave me my money back immediately. Yes, ma'am.
I always photograph my item before I ship it off after I've sold it. I just photograph the item before I ship it, so I know what condition it's in when I get to my house.
Oh, yeah, sure.
What was that?
She said before she ships something, she takes a picture of it, so that it shows the condition.
Mitch, another point about the inexpensive new phones and the inexpensive new iPads. I'm not saying they're inexpensive, but less expensive.
Yes.
I think that is also could be connected to the upgrades in the operating system. Because in iOS 13, which is coming out on the 19th, is that what it is?
Yes, the 19th.
A lot of phones and iPads that people have will not work with the new upgraded OS.
I think it works through...
I think it starts at 7 maybe.
6S.
6S will work. 6S.
Yes, and up. So anybody with a 6
Yeah.
or less, and then the same thing with the iPads. It's not going to work with some of the Airs and some of the other iPads. So people who want to upgrade to the operating system and have one of the older devices can buy a new one more reasonably than the Pro levels.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the 8 would be a fine phone. The XR from last year would be a fine phone. I think that the 11 is a really good phone, and I considered getting that myself, selling my 10 and just going to an 11. And because the problem I have, and I think the problem a lot of people have, is that I don't want to plunk out too much money this year for a new phone when I know I'm going to want a 5G phone next year. How many other people in here feel that way? Yeah, a lot. Okay. Yes, Carl.
What exactly is the difference between the new iPad and iPad Pro? What's the difference between the Pro and the?
The processor is much faster on the Pro, and the Pro is the new Pro, that 11-inch Pro is screen to screen, so it's a bigger screen, and it does the new pencil. So there are a lot of differences. I mean, that Pro is just it's close to a laptop, but it's not quite there yet. And the Pro has the slot that you can hook an external drive to.
What's the price difference, do you know?
Oh yeah, double,
Double?
at least. I think those Pros start at about $1,000, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would, I don't think I'd ever buy a Pro again. I think I mainly use my MacBook Pro for computer. And then I like it for an iPad. I like to use it at night when I'm in bed and I want something lighter. So I never take the Pro to bed. I take the lighter iPads, and I find that it's too heavy. And you might as well either have a computer. Now, a lot of the iPad is really to get the PC people that are buying the cheaper PCs, the $800-900 PCs into an Apple device, I think.
Now, having said that, you get the big iPad though, the 13-inch one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I originally bought the first iPad Pro, and that thing is really heavy.
Yeah, but if you get the 11-inch, it's not nearly as bad as the bigger ones.
But if you don't have a laptop,
That's what I do too.
Yeah.
if you don't have a laptop, the Pro is better than the regular iPad.
Oh, right.
And there's better connections to the computer, and there are more things that you can do with it.
I do 90% of my computer type work on the MacBook Pro.
Yeah, and I do.
And you're the other way
I do
around.
95% of my work on an iPad or the phone. I rarely, as soon as a couple more things are done to this iPad, I'll get rid of my computer completely. And I take it everywhere I go. I mean, I'm going to Costco, I throw it in the car. Because you never know when there's a thunderstorm, and I'm stuck out in the parking lot because I refuse to use an umbrella. And so I get out my iPad and look up some things for a few minutes. Or I go to a doctor's office and I'm sitting there waiting for 20 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I usually take an iPad.
Now what I used to have one of the small ones. And I'd have one of those, and they just upgraded that small one. But to me, they didn't upgrade it to the level that I wanted it upgraded to. Otherwise, I'd get one of those and just keep it in the car.
You want to talk about the store?
The store.
Oh, the cameras?
Yeah.
Or anything, any questions from anybody?
Mitch,
Yeah.
on that, the $5 a month movie thing, if I went and bought an iPad today, an old one, an existing, because I'm gonna buy a mini. They didn't announce a new mini because they just had one earlier this year.
Right.
So if I went and bought one today, would I get did they announce when it's gonna start, give you the $5?
November.
No, when you get the freebie, I assume that's now, but I would talk to Apple about that.
No, he asked when.
No,
Apple starts.
the TV service starts in November. What he asked is if I buy an iPad today, am I going to get the free service for a year? And I think that's a question you need to ask Apple. I would assume you would. They just put you in the queue, and when November gets here, they'll give it to you. But I would ask them.
Okay, thank you.
Let's talk about the Apple Store.
Somebody have a question about a camera?
Yeah.
Yes.
The deal with the 3 cameras.
With that.
Bob, I'm going to call on Bob Kennedy for that. Would you talk about the 3 cameras, Bob?
I don't think so.
The third camera gives wide angle, ultra
Quiet on the floor, please.
ultra wide angle. Okay? And the software gives you a zooming capability for a high quality image from the telephoto to the wide. So you have a 4 times zoom between, now they call it optical zoom, and I believe the quality is equal to the optical zoom, but it's a software job between organizing between the 3 pictures taken with the 3 different angles.
Now, on the new 11, they actually have a wide angle photo.
Ultra wide.
Ultra wide angle, and then I assume a regular. So what are you getting with that third camera on the new phone, on the other phone, the Pro?
Oh, I don't know whether the Pro gives you more angle, but it gives you a higher quality image. You get a lot of image processing with
that third lens.
with the camera, with HDR, high definition, and so on. I will make sure that 2 weeks from now when I talk, I'll know the details.
Okay.
But right now, what I recall from yesterday's viewing.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at that 11 pretty good. I mean, the 2 cameras on the 11, one wide angle and one regular, that was pretty impressive to me. I mean, the other one was even more impressive if you were really into photography, but I'm just not into spending all that money this year on a new phone. So if I did anything, I got a quote from, my iPhone 10, which is in excellent condition, is a 256K memory, and they offered me $435.
Who did?
Gazelle.
Oh, yeah.
Gazelle.
Also,
And so, wait a minute. So my thinking was, well, I could sell that for $435 right now. It's 2 years old. The Apple Care is gone. If I break that OLED screen, it's going to cost me a fortune to replace it because they don't replace those for $100. And I thought, well, I could just get the new 11. And what would I get with the new 11? Well, I get a slightly bigger device, not too much bigger, slightly bigger. I get 2 cameras that are better than the 2 cameras I have right now. I get a processor that's an A13 versus an A11 that I have on this phone, and it's much, much faster. I get significant increase in battery life because the XR last year and the new one this year, they had the best battery life of any of the iPhones. And incidentally, the new Pro line has 4 to 5 hours more battery life.
5. The Pro has 5, the non-Pro has 4.
Yeah.
And
So I thought about, if I take into account what I get for my old phone and what the new one would cost with the same amount of memory plus Apple Care, I'd probably have about $600 invested in a new phone that I would probably get rid of next year or give it to my son. So I haven't decided what I'm going to do. I just don't know if I want to do that at all. But I am glad I got to watch, and it's coming.
The Pro will have 12.5 megapixel pictures.
So does the 11.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the 11 will have 12.5 megapixel,
Yeah.
which is very decent. Today's high semi-professional cameras have 20 to 30, up to 50 or 60, but start at 20 or 30, so 15.5 is a great quality.
They're getting very close to, I think, and you might want to comment on this, but I think they're getting very close to why do you even need a 35 millimeter camera anymore?
Yeah, exactly. And that was the announcement. We are in the business against the cameras, we are in the business against games, and we are in the business against entertainment.
I mean, you
Film.
think what they've done with
Netflix like.
Exactly, and you think what they've done with the cameras, like the point and shoot, you can't even find a point and shoot. And it wasn't 7 or 8 years ago, you got to Best Buy and they have a room about this size with 30 or 40 different point and shoot cameras, anywhere from $50 up to $400. And they barely exist anymore.
Same thing with the video.
Same thing with video cameras as well, exactly.
Even more so, I think with video cameras, they really go after professional video business.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, and they've got to be, these people that have the 35 millimeter cameras got to be thinking, boy, I don't know what we're going to do to keep them away from us in 5 or 10 years from now, because they're just making so many insights, or so many headways with this, with the cameras that they have. It's unbelievable.
Are all the 11s have 3 cameras on them?
2
what?
2 cameras.
The Pros
Two
have
different lenses.
The 11 has 2 cameras. The Pro has 3 cameras.
Is there anyone that has just one?
Well, if you want to get a last year's model,
Which is fine
what,
with 90% of people.
yeah.
I mean, don't be
That's why
embarrassed to
I'm-
buy
That's why
the
I'm
one
asking.
camera.
So do you think that like next year, when hopefully the G5, will they have a model that just has one camera for
Probably not.
90% of the people?
Think of the 3 lenses as zoom. The zoom range. That's really what they do.
They're not going to go back. They're not going to, oh, well, we'll just put one camera on this one. They're not going to do it because all the competitors out there,
Do you use both of those things? Both
it's
cameras?
automatic.
What do you mean?
Now, she's thinking of it as, maybe Bob can explain.
You're thinking of it as, oh, I got to choose one or the other.
Yes.
When I put this up and I
Right.
take your picture,
Yeah.
it's automatic. Both of those lenses work in tandem, and they take the
Okay.
best image possible.
Okay, sorry,
Okay.
I misunderstood.
Yeah. You don't choose one or the other.
Oh,
Yeah, no.
thinking, well,
Yeah, no.
okay.
Yes, Marilyn.
To follow up on Don's question, along with this Apple Plus service, iTunes, you still will be able to buy movies on iTunes or rent movies on iTunes. They're just dividing up the iTunes app into 3 different places instead of having everything through iTunes. And that's the Apple Plus app is more than just movies. It's other things, TV shows, shows made by Apple, other things that are on the app, a streaming service, as opposed to iTunes is where you can purchase or rent movies.
Yeah.
So it's a little confusing, because they use the same terms, Apple TV, now Apple TV Plus.
Yeah.
What's the difference between that? And then iTunes, you think movies, well, now do you have to go to Apple Plus to get movies? No, you can still get movies from iTunes, but you can't get other things from iTunes that you used to get. And that's all divided up into different apps. Jim Corsica is a person that might be able to help answer some of those questions too, because he's going to be doing a class on exactly what's happened to iTunes, how it's divided up, and also on streaming services and things. So,
The class is in January, February.
right,
Yeah.
in February he's going to do that. But he might be able to answer questions similar to what Don is asking. I don't know if that's what Don was asking, but iTunes is still available for movies and music.
So if you have Plus and it's a stream, does that take the place of,
Why
say,
don't you get a new
DirecTV
watch?
now?
DirecTV?
Now that it has a stream?
No.
Next year, they have.
That's just,
I get one.
it's just like Prime Video
Yes.
for like Netflix. Apple Plus is like Prime Video or Netflix, okay? iTunes is still like iTunes where you get music and things like that.
Okay, they ask, George asked about the Apple Store. Here's a picture of the Apple Store out at Waterside Shops. If you haven't been out there, it's worth it just to go out and take a look. That big colored thing in the middle is a screen, and it's almost 3/4 of the size of this wall here. And they do classes on that screen, and they're just sort of, you know, they've got some not very comfortable blocks you can sit on. They run classes all the time. And you think, well, geez, how do I take the class? There's other people in the store, but I sat through the one on the watch. I sat through another one. They were good, basic classes, and I was just sitting in to see what it was all about.
You have to sign up for it?
You can, most of them you can walk in the door and say, hey, I'd like to sit in on the class, but some of them are full, and the way to sign up is, so that's what it looks like, and it's huge. Oh, and I want to point out one thing that you'll want to know that is not marked very well, but you see this door right in the corner over here? You just walk through there, and they've got 4 bathrooms, 4 customers, and they're all unisex. Okay?
When did they open?
They opened a couple, 2 or 3 weeks ago.
What did they do differently?
The store is probably 3 or 4 times as big, would you say, George?
Everybody's.
3 or 4 times as big, and people will say, well, where's the Genius Bar? Okay? The Genius Bar is this table right here and this table right here. But the way they actually do this now is you walk in and you say, I got a Genius Bar appointment for 10:30, and they'll say, okay, they'll say, okay, we'll call you, and they call you, and the guy comes over to you, asks you what the problem is. They'll try and fix it right there on the spot. If they can't, then they take you to one of these tables where they can plug in your device and do some things here. If they don't have a big class going on here, they'll do some classes sometimes over in the corner here at that table. Signing up, let me go over that real quick.
And it's free.
Yeah, it's free. So signing up, if you don't have this app, you need to have this app. It's the Apple Store. And so let me go into there. And when you go into this the first time, we'll say, what's your store? And I've already got mine set up for Waterside Shops. And you notice at the bottom here, it says, select all sessions. And it's on sessions at the bottom. So I select them, and here are the dates. So if I go to today, or go to here, they have a session at 2 o'clock to 3:30 on the iPhone and the iPad. And so if you wanted to get into that, if it said full, it would say full right there. But if I want to get into that, I just go here, and I just go, oh, it says full. So I can't sign up.
But it says 3 more sessions, what does that mean?
3 more sessions during
Of
the
the
week.
same thing?
During the week, yeah. So, but if you walk out there, chances are somebody would not show and you could just sit right down, or you could stand off to the side. So that's pretty slick. So they've got that one, and then here's one after that one. They've got a music lab for an hour. They've got a video lab for half an hour. And then if you go to tomorrow,
So they
here's
have
what
something
they have.
every
Here's what
day.
they have for tomorrow.
So they have something every day.
Yes, they have several of them, and they're very good. Yes.
Mitch, you took some classes there. Walking in, the acoustic sounds awful.
No.
No. The first
Actually,
day it did. When you were there the first day, it did, but they fixed that.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
think so. I was there today, and all these people came in there and all that noise was going on in here.
Well, there's noise going on, but the problem with the first day, and there were several people here the
How
first
does it
day.
work out for the crowd?
You were. Carl, were you there the first day? Okay. That when they were doing the presentation, you couldn't hear the gal talking. Now, when I was there for 2 different sessions a week or so ago, they had adjusted the speakers and everything, and I could hear fine, and I was sitting in the back row. Because I prefer to sit in the back row because that screen is so big, you can see it. Now, you're saying that you couldn't hear the person, or just there was a lot of ambient noise
There
that
was
you
a
didn't
lot
like?
of people talking and everything, so you were trying to talk to them about something, and you really had to stay centered to hear.
Yeah. I know my wife has that problem. She goes there. She just can't stand all the ambient noise and the crowds. And I would imagine yesterday it was more crowded than normal because of the announcement.
Oh, I was there today.
Today? Okay. And I imagine today, people were in there with their questions on what the new products are going to be. So I didn't think the classes were that bad, and I thought they were basic, but they were very good. They weren't as good as what we do here, but they were good. Yes.
What's the name of that app? Is this called the App Store?
It's called the,
Understanding shops.
no, the app.
Yeah.
The app is called Apple Store.
Apple Store, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you showed the sessions, and it said, like an example, it said iPhone and iPad,
Mhm.
okay? What version are they going to be doing?
They'll do any version that you have, but they will very quickly tell you, like I sat in on the watch session, and the guy said, okay, if you don't have a watch 4, it's not going to do these features.
Okay.
So they'll say, like, if you've got an iPhone 7 or 8, and they're talking about something that's a feature on the 10, or they'll say, this might not work on yours.
Oh, okay.
They sort of point that out.
Okay, I just want to know.
Yeah. And they were very good. It was basic. It was basic for me because, and I actually went to the watch session to see if they could tell me anything that I didn't already know, and they didn't. And that was good because it tested my knowledge.
I was just going to say, you're sitting in on the watch when you don't have it yet. Is that correct?
No, I sat in on the watch one with my watch 4.
Did they talk about the 5?
No, they don't talk about anything until it's announced.
Okay.
And even now, if they were doing a session on watches, they would not talk about the 5 because people don't have it yet. It's
I
not
see.
going to come out for a
Okay.
week or so. And with that, we are out of time. Thank you very much for coming.